both sides of the border. We gave a commitment to the Mexican people that we were going to do our part, and we did just the opposite.
Vincent Cefalu, I wanted to talk about the Arizona U.S. Attorney, Dennis Burke, who's been removed from his involvement in this program, in Operation Fast and Furious, the significance of this, but also the fact that key 3 agents were actually promoted as the head of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms was forced out, and they were supervisors, heavily criticized themselves.
Oh, that action in and of itself, with the architects of Fast and Furious being moved and protected in their current positions, pending an investigation by the U.S. Congress and the Office of the Inspector General for the Department of Justice, is just outrageous. It's more of the same, and quite frankly, those sort of decisions are what led to Mr. Melson being recalled back to the Department of Justice and placed in another position. Clearly, until these Bill Newell and George Gillette and Agent Both, these supervisors you're talking about, have a right to due process just like anybody else. But with the evidence that's out there and the allegations that they have committed, clearly they should not be in leadership positions. Clearly the taxpayers should not have had to foot the bill for these high-dollar moves back to Washington so their positions could be protected, their salaries and benefits, and hopefully take them out of the public eye where there's no accountability. You saw the testimony before Congress. Clearly, these people, clearly Bill McMahon should not be in charge of our internal affairs, who's the direct conduit for the Office of Inspector General.
So the people,
investigation.
The key supervisors, I'm reading from the Los Angeles Times, William McMahon, who is the ATF's Deputy Director of Operations in the West, where the illegal trafficking program was focused, William Newell and David Voth, both field supervisors who oversaw the program out of the agency's Phoenix office. They have now been bumped up, been promoted.
Well, technically speaking, and the Assistant Special Agent in charge, George Gillette, who was integral to this operation as well, they've all been moved, lateraled in most cases. So technically there's not a promotion in title. However, they're all maintaining their senior executive pay. They're been placed in leadership status, not demoted, not accountable. And again, we just paid the taxpayers, being we, to move them into a safe zone in headquarters where they could, you know, take the limelight off them when there may be prosecutions come down the road. Now, why did we pay $500,000 to move them before the outcome of this investigation was complete? Why are they at all involved in vetting the information that will be turned over to the OIG? How can Bill McMahon, as the Deputy Assistant Director for this entire program, after that abysmal testimony, be the direct contact to the Office of Inspector General who's investigating him? I'm not sure how that's going to work out.
Now, Republican lawmakers are saying they think the Justice Department is holding back documents and stonewalling their attempts to find out more about Operation Fast and Furious. What do you think, Vincent Cefalu?
Oh, I think it's absolutely correct. I think the Democratic lawmakers on the committee are just as frustrated. They've expressed it. Ranking Member Cummins is equally frustrated, and they should be. I myself, in trying to defend my own dispute, have FOIA'd my own transfer records, which resulted in the now infamous Chairman Issa blacked out, redacted page on my own transfer. This is not transparency, and this is not consistent with what the president's directives for transparency have been. Hopefully that's going to change, because at the end of the day, we do work for the American people. We did take an oath to the Constitution, not to Eric Holder, not to President Obama, not to Chairman Issa, not to anybody else. We're accountable to you, to the American people, and you have a right to know what we're doing with your money and your resources.
So, to be clear, the head of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Melson, has been reassigned. Burke, the U.S. attorney in Arizona, has resigned. Is that right?
That is correct. I saw the resignation letter. Kenneth Melson has been reassigned to a policy position over at Maine Justice. So that is correct, yes.
I wanted to end with the comments of the Mexican President Felipe Calderon, who repeatedly called for the U.S. to implement stricter firearms laws. He's accused the Americans of, quote, irresponsibility on arms sales. This is a comment he made last year.
The Americans began to sell arms as a voracious, ambitious industry, like the American arms industry. This often provokes conflicts in countries that are poor and less developed, such as Africa, due to the sale of arms, is in a very similar situation to that which is being lived by the Mexican people. For the arms traffickers, it's a business to sell arms to criminals. And we need to mobilize not just public opinion against this, but unite with international public opinion to show the irresponsibility of the Americans, as much as it bothers them or hinders their political campaigns.
Mexican President Felipe Calderon last year. Your response, Vincent Cefalu, special agent at the BATF.
Well, with all due respect to the president, he's entitled to his opinion and his assessment. I mean, they're at our hands, at our agency's mismanagement. They've suffered a lot in Mexico. But the more laws, we had the laws. We didn't enforce them. Bill Newell and our leadership did not interdict those 2,000 guns. Had we wouldn't be having these conversations right now. I wouldn't be here this morning, and our agency wouldn't be in disarray. So you can put 1,000 laws on the book. That's not to say laws can't be improved and tightened or penalties. That's Congress's job. That's not my job. We're supposed to be apolitical. We don't have a position. You give us the laws, we'll enforce them to the best of our ability. But in this case, we just didn't do our job. It was a total case of malfeasance across the board, and no one chose to step up and do anything. We have senior managers saying they were aware of this. They questioned it in private briefings and meetings. I believe Deputy Assistant Director Steve Martin said he asked during his interview with Mr. Isa's committees, he asked, how long are we going to let this go on? When are we going to stop this? He had a duty to report. He had a duty to use his authority and his position to stop it. But that's not career enhancing, so this whole go along to get along that's brought our Bureau down has to stop. People have to start doing their jobs, and we need some accountable leadership.
Vincent Cefalu, I want to thank you for being with us. Special Agent at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives has spoken out against ATF practices, including the controversial Fast and Furious program, and has been put out to pasture as a result, if you say. He's still working for the BATF, at home with nothing to do. Now, the Attorney General, Eric Holder, has announced the resignation of the United States Attorney in Phoenix, Dennis Burke, and the reassignment of the acting head of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, Kenneth Melson. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. Vincent Cefalu speaking to us from Reno, Nevada. We'll be back in a minute.